In the summer of 1947, the people of Hungary prepared for a momentous parliamentary election. The results of the election would lead to the Hungarian Workers' Party taking control of government, the main event. The Iron Curtain of communism would be drawn over the nation, and it would be a further 43 years before the people of Hungary would take part in a democratic election again. At the end of the Second World War, the Soviet army occupied Hungary. In January 1945, a provisional Hungarian government signed an armistice with the Soviet Union. Later that year, elections were held. The Independent Smallholders Party won the majority of the vote. However, the Soviet commander in Hungary, Marshal Kliment Voroshilov, prevented the party from forming a government. Instead, Voroshilov established a coalition government, with Hungarian Communist Party members holding key posts. Prominent Smallholder Party member Ferenc Nagy became Prime Minister. Nagy had served in the Hungarian Parliament in the early 1940s and was an advocate for peasants' rights and democracy. As Prime Minister, he fought the Communists' attempts to gain control of government. He was determined not to become a puppet of a Soviet-controlled police state. These efforts were thwarted when, in late 1946, the Communists began a campaign of undermining and discrediting the coalition. The so-called salami tactics involved accusing non-communist leaders of being anti-democratic or reactionary. Several of Nagy's colleagues were forced to resign from government. The threat of police arrests forced some leaders into exile. In the lead-up to the election, Nagy was accused of crimes against the state. Soon afterwards, his 5-year-old son was kidnapped, and Nagy was forced to make a terrible choice: either lose his son or his position as Prime Minister. In May 1947, Nagy resigned from office. He had been Prime Minister of Hungary for little more than a year. Reunited with his son, Nagy and his family fled the country and later gained asylum in the United States. In 1948, Nagy would document his life and political career in a book entitled The Struggle Behind the Iron Curtain. By the time of the parliamentary election, the Communists had successfully consolidated their power and diminished the opposition in Hungary. When, on August 31st, 1947, the votes were cast and counted, the Hungarian Communists won more seats than the demoralized Independent Smallholders Party. The stage was finally set for the Communists to take control. In the next few years, post-war cooperation between the Soviet Union and the West broke down. The Cold War took hold and Hungary became part of the Eastern Bloc. Between 1948 and 1989, the Communists controlled all levels of government in Hungary, and the head of the Communist Party was the country's most powerful leader. In the late 1980s, public pressure forced Hungary's leaders to accept the formation of opposition parties. In May 1990, the nation held its first free and uncorrupted parliamentary election in 45 years. The Liberal Democratic Forum won 43% of the vote. Under Prime Minister Joseph Stalin, it formed a centre-right coalition government along with the Independent Smallholders Party and the Christian Democrats. Hungary's transition to a Western-style parliamentary democracy was complete. The transition was the first and smoothest of the former Eastern Bloc nations. The main event of 1947 had allowed the Communists to take control. After 43 years, the Iron Curtain was drawn back and Hungary returned to democracy.